nominals. MSU, that stood for Master Sniper of the Universe, after winning a long-range rifle match. He stopped using that one after we said it stood for Make Shit Up. He also has those classic Robbie quotes that usually start with, "Rightio, have I got a deal for you?" Minter, referring to good-looking guns, cars or women. Rumbo tumbos, usually followed by more tea, vicar. You can't put a price on your sport. Tobacco. It's in the priority queue, which is far better than far queue. Ah, those lurkers. You'll remember the quality long after you've forgotten the price. Lazy idiots are okay, it's the highly motivated ones you have to watch out for. I have a memory like a steel trap, especially when it comes to money I'm owed. I'm sure we can all remember many other Robbie quotes too. We always use them, we always will. I first met Robbie through army shooting somewhere around the early mid-90s. He was a Territorial Force soldier, otherwise known as TF. And he was going out with a minter he called Molly, who I later found out that was Amanda. He liked to have a drink, especially rum, which he referred to as rumbo tumbos. He also liked to smoke tobacco, my tobacco, and he liked it even more if I had tailor-made smokes. Us TF soldiers can't afford tailor-made smokes, not like you overpaid RF lurkers, he'd say. Robbie's sense of humour, lightning-fast wit and mischief nature made him a party just waiting to happen. That usually involved some sort of drinking game or bizarre physical challenge that Robbie was particularly skilled at. Coupled with his amazing knowledge, experience and skill around guns, whether shooting them, making them or fixing them, I, like all of you, were drawn toward Robbie. No matter how much he'd take the piss out of you, you couldn't help but like the guy. I remember him chatting to a colonel from Auckland at a shooting competition some years ago. He had him believing all the TF regiments were getting renamed and the colonels were going to be called the Auckland Regional Support Echelon. But we'll just call you ARSE for short, sir. Robbie was a great shot, but not after a hard night on the booze. I remember one year in Brisbane, we were at a competition called the Australian Army Skill at Arms meeting, and our shooting scores were not as good as they could have been. We decided that we would have a night off the booze, and the rest of the team were taking the vans into town after dinner, and Robbie and I said, no, we're going to have a quiet night. So we headed to the competition bar for one drink. We congratulated ourselves all night on how smart we were by not going into town, staying in camp sober and having an early night. We would shoot so well the next day, not like the rest of our irresponsible team. I don't remember what time Robbie and I stumbled back to the tent after a large session on the rumbo tumbos, but it was the wee hours of the morning, and like the rest of the team, were all well and truly back. They had gone to the movies. They hadn't been drinking and were fast asleep. Uber fail. We shot like the Auckland Regional Support Echelon the next day. 2 nights later, a crazy Brit competitor by the name of Stitches was standing on the pool table making some announcement to the crowded bar. Robbie thought it'd be funny to stand behind him and pull down his tracksuit pants. Unfortunately for Stitches, he wasn't wearing any underpants. Very funny. This was followed by Robbie running for his life with a very unimpressed Brit after him. I had never seen Robbie move so fast. Luckily, one of the team saved Robbie from a beating that night. The rest of us, however, just laughed and yelled, "Go, RDR, go!" We quickly learned that the easiest way to beat Robbie at shooting was to make a bet with him, that you would beat him and make the payment some sort of humiliating act. The pressure seemed to get to Robbie and the team used to enjoy endless entertainment via Robbie's losses, followed by public embarrassment. We would also enjoy taking the piss out of Robbie over his lack of hearing. He would argue that he could hear a $100 note land on his shop counter from 50 yards away, and that his hearing was selective. He chose to switch off when morons were waffling. In crowded bars and nightclubs, Robbie would generally say, and nod a lot, not having heard a thing, which was another way of getting him to agree with stuff you would tell him about the next day. I don't remember saying yes to that, he'd say. But you have a memory like a steel trap, Robbie, and ears that appear to have been painted on. I think Robbie became less social over the years went on because of his hearing. Spending the night yelling and not hearing the conversation just became too unenjoyable. One-on-one, away from a crowded, noisy place, however, he was a hard man to stop talking. Robbie could talk at the bottom of a swimming pool with a mouthful of marbles, and you never stopped in to see Robbie for just a quick chat. We'll all miss that. The last time I saw Robbie, he wasn't well. He was at home with his bed set up in the lounge. With typical army black humour, I greeted him saying he looked like a picture of health. I said, if you manage to get out of this one, we'll have to call you Houdini. He smiled and said, I don't think I'll be getting out of this one. We chatted and laughed about old stories and spoke about people probably in this room today, as well as the deployment I was about to go on. When it was time to go, we both knew we'd never see each other again. He put his hand out, I shook it, and then gave him a hug. It's got in brackets here, Sophie, you need to stress this was totally a hetero hug. I thanked him for being such a great friend to us all and told him to save us a good seat at the bar. Both failing to hold back the tears, I left. To Alex, Charlie and Amanda, thank you for sharing Robbie with us, especially the last 2 years when time was so precious. Robbie, you are a legend. God bless. Ate mate. Run fast, shoot straight.
Thank you, Sophie. Now, Frank McKeague, please.
Hello everybody, my name's Frank McKeague and I'm not very good at this, so forgive me if I don't get through it as well as I'd like to. Anyhow, I'm a mate of Robbie's, Robbie Tiffin, also known to me as the Big Nose Bar Steward, the Indian Seller, I'll explain what that means later, the Gentleman Farmer, the Deaf One, was I really knew him, the Dutch Presbyterian Scottish Jew. The Indian Seller part comes from Robbie as been explained before by the two Mikes, an entrepreneur to say the least, and you'd see something you'd have for sale, normally a gun, you go, is that for sale, Robbie? Yes. Okay, how much? Blah, blah. Okay, sold. Oh, no. If you said yes, it's not enough. But the sight of actual folding cash notes would make him fold like a little girl. Wave the notes, watch Robbie fold. Cash had that effect on him. He was easy to manipulate if you knew how. As has been said before, Robbie was very, very good at giving nicknames, and they usually stuck for life, unfortunately. We had many names for each other over the years. I was variously Petal, the Ginger, Big Balls, I like that one, the Bishop of West Melton, the busiest man in the New Zealand Army, or the War Dodger. We try to work a way to rub some shiny sixpences together was one of Robbie's favourite sayings, along with, you must come and visit more often so you can leave quicker. It took me quite a while to work that one out. Then I realised that, it is a Tiffin insult, cool. He was a bastard for that. He was and is the master of the quick response, and he loved word banter and a good discussion on any topic, of which naturally he was a subject matter expert. And if he didn't know what you were talking about in any discussion, and if I happened to offer some information, he would just look and go, "Ah, are they Ginga facts?" He was a great supporter. He used to love me getting wound up and outraged by having to defend or prove a well-known truth, and he just stirred the pot. The reality was that Robbie was, as we all know, a possessor and, more importantly, the user of a first-class mind, and he was one of life's thinkers. He was a soldier, he was a gunsmith, a lawyer, a husband and a father. He was a hunter, and a rifleman and a shotgunner. Don't normally get both together. A gun collector, a businessman. He was a crap racing car driver and even worse, boat driver. And he was ultimately a frustrated farmer. Some of the shit he tried down those back paddocks. And those things only start to encapsulate what Robbie was about. And I've known Robbie for roughly 25 years, so not as long as some of his school friends and down south people, as I call it, dirty water. I was lucky enough to meet Robbie when he was actually doing his law degree at varsity, and at that stage I'd left the regular force army and I was in territorials, and Robbie has joined Two Scots, and I was chatting to Sam Staveley, who runs the Tekapo range. I run the West Melton Army range, and he says, "Tiffin." Yes, I remember him. He walked into the Dunedin Army Hall, and I went, "Who the hell is that? What the hell is that thing?" He was the typical looking soldier. Anyhow, he joined Two Scots and blew his ears out by firing 107 recoilless rifles, no hearing protection. That's why he's deaf. Anyhow, Robbie, I first met Robbie because I was actually chasing his female flatmate. And I'd heard of Tiffin in the TF game because I was a shooter as well. And he had heard that some savage was pursuing his flatmate. So he thought, right, I'll nip that in the bud. I'll sort that out. So I go round to the girl I was chasing, and Robbie's there, and he goes, about to have a sort of set to with me, and he goes, "Oh, it's you. Have a beer." The girlfriend eventually disappeared, like they all do. Actually, this one went literally to Mongolia. And with our common interest in the army, with shooting, guns, booze and bullshit, we became very good mates. And it was about this time I remember Amanda showed up. I won't say too much about that. Okay. Eventually we became property owners and neighbours out at West Melton. And except for his appalling taste in German and Japanese cars, his insistence that KFC was haute cuisine, and his preference for rum, we never had a cross word in those 25 years. From my perspective, I always think of Robbie and him and I and another mate or two. We would go to the gun auctions we went to around the country, and where he knew, as it's been said before, everybody at the auction. At least as he said, he knew the proper people. Robbie liked proper people. He liked the last of the real guys. And his other saying was, look after the brothers. And we spent a lot of time on Sunday mornings and the second day of an auction on a hard chair with a thunderous hangover going, "Oh, kill me now." He also liked the pinch phrases. He was a very good plagiarist. Although you'll hate me saying that. He used to pinch my best phrase, which was insufficient personalities. And he'd use it to his own advantage and a bit of fun. Robbie was just good fun. He was a true funny bastard. He was a party on wheels, just add alcohol. It was impossible not to have a good conversation. It was impossible not to have a good conversation with Robbie. And when I last saw him a week or two ago, we just talked about our landing beats, the latest gun auction, the price of the dollar. He was depressed. And what a useless government we're working under. Sorry, this is the hard part. What he and I didn't talk about was our respect and brotherhood for each other, as that was a given. And we didn't bother saying goodbye because I know I'll see him on the other side. To Amanda, Charlie and Alex and all the family, Paulette, Linda and all the family and all the friends. I've got no real words of comfort except we're all blessed for knowing him and being part of his life. We were lucky bastards. We truly were. If we all try to live up to the example he set in his time here, we will not go wrong as people. I believe that he lives on through us and in our memories, and we will ultimately see him on the other side. So, Shalante, brother, Shalante. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Now, I've got a couple of tributes to read out. The first one is from Andrew Simpson. Where's Andrew? You just might come up here, Andrew, just in case I can't understand some spelling. I'll work it out? Right, I'll make it up. No. Here we go. Robbie had a wonderful vocabulary and a term of phrase that entertained us all. His beloved wife began as Molly the Trolley. I was always simply Simpson. And some unlucky souls were insufficient personalities. That was the, that was a cut and paste one, wasn't it? Robbie's own personality was large, inventive, generous and compassionate. Robbie had no truck with social media influences, but influenced every one of us. Robbie influenced me greatly and much for the better, and I'm grateful always to him. Hurrah, my friend Simo. Did I get it right? Great. Now I've got another one here, and this is from Simon Causa. It's the man that wears a skirt.
I might have a crack at this myself.
Good on you.
Can't be worse than my bagpiping. Yeah, no worries. I'll get out. I can see why you girls like these little handbag things. They're kind of handy. All right. Glasses, lippy. Great. Alrighty. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Simon Causa, and Robbie was my best mate for 26 years. I never realised that till I wrote him a letter several weeks back as he lay fighting his cancer. I miss him dearly. I met Robbie by accident when I took over a spare room in his Clyde Road flat. We became instant friends. Everyone in that flat was called Norbert. Robbie immediately christened me Corporate Norbert. Not because I was particularly corporate-like, but mainly because I was the only one that had a job. Lots of people referred to it, but Robbie had a nickname for everybody. He introduced me to a whole range of nefarious characters in the ensuing years. You've heard of Petal, Simo, Skinny, the Darganfuhrer, Fig Jam, Mavis, Hedge, Backdoor Bill, Spanky and Waveney. And they became my friends too. He even married Waveney. And they had two fantastic children, Monkey 1 and Monkey 2. So the Waveney reference was we all decided that Amanda looked like Waveney off Shortland Street when we first met her. So in return, I introduced Robbie to the concept of my spaghetti bolognese. That was every Tuesday night for nigh on 2 years. So I never said it was an even relationship. Robbie was an incredibly intelligent man and an astute judge of character. He was witty, personable and thoughtful. I had 4 degrees when I met Robbie, yet I rapidly found there was no way I could keep up with his intellect and sharpness of mind. Fortunately, I discovered Robbie was also excellent at talking shit. So we mainly focused on that for the next 26 years. It worked well, at least for me it did. So Robbie sold me my first rifle, and in doing so, illegally I might add, sold me my first rifle, and in doing so kindled a passion within me that remained for the rest of my life. By virtue of this, I was introduced to dozens of other like-minded people. Folks who also enjoyed weeks on end in the rain, under a tent fly, being eaten by sandflies, in search of non-existent animals in the New Zealand bush. Robbie was a lot smarter than that. He mainly just sold us guns and ammo. But the point I'm trying to make is that Robbie had this sort of personality that provided a nexus, and it was a nexus for not just people, but for people around them in turn. And many of those people sit before me today. So I've placed a round of ammunition in Robbie's casket this morning, and that's a reminder of the gift that he gave me all those years ago. That was a round of ammunition from that first rifle. Along that gift that he gave me were additional gifts of friendship, knowledge, humour, companionship and love. Homage to my good friend. Robbie, it was a privilege to know you in life, and it was an honour to be holding you as that life passed away. Thank you.
Now Phil Mackay, brother-in-law, he's going to come up and he's going to share with us.
So I'm Phil Mackay, husband of Linda, Robbie's sister, and my memories of Robbie is quick-wittedness, intelligent and strong sense of humour. I think all the previous speakers have outlined that really well. But I'm really standing here to speak on behalf of Linda. So Linda holds Robbie in the highest of regard, and she often fondly talks of childhood memories involving Robbie and through into teenage years as well. Linda valued Robbie's opinion and wisdom, as well as his sense of humour. There's no one else that could get away with calling Linda Bon Jovi after a particular haircut, let alone for the whole summer holiday. Linda would return from trips to Christchurch using Robbie's latest sayings and would often quote and use Robbie's opinions as determining factors. For those of you who know Linda, she can be quite difficult to win an argument with. But for some reason, when Robbie said something, then it just seemed to seal the deal, and no one else quite had that influence. The latest example of this was actually yesterday, when Amanda asked Linda if she would like to speak at this service. So Linda, in not feeling entirely comfortable about speaking, quoted Robbie in her reply. People shouldn't speak at funerals if they can't come up with anything worthwhile to say. That doesn't apply to any of the preceding speakers. And I'm not wanting to put any pressure on the next ones. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Now, the brave one, Paulette, the sister.
This is actually a letter that I wrote once I got back up to the farm after seeing Robbie for the last time a couple of weeks ago. Things that I didn't get a chance to say to him, but Amanda did read it to him for me. So here I go again. A few things stand out from growing up with you that I didn't say when I saw you last. Remember when you were not old enough, so Mum obtained her delic night licence on your behalf so you could go and blow things up. I think Mum went above and beyond on that one. Remember Dad, Chaffee, then you drive the Zephyr up the home station straight. Me in the back, not that happy. What about the time Mum and Dad learnt the hard way not to lend you the mighty Falcon? I remember you had to go back to Grange Hill the next morning and fix the driveway fence. What about you and that noisy, smoky, clapped-out beach buggy that you loved to scare me with when I was out riding? It's awful. The time I knocked down your bullet collection that was above the kitchen sliding door. You were quite cross about that. I got my head put under the tap. I would love swapping bedrooms with you, and I'd shift all the furniture between the rooms for you to discover when you came home. It's a little surprise. I really liked being able to reload shotgun cartridges because it meant I could hang out in the den with you. Thank you for teaching me how to hold a steering wheel so that my thumbs won't break. Teach me how to make a fist if I ever had to punch someone. Also, so my thumbs wouldn't break. It's handy stuff. Remember when it was the Tiffin family's turn to draw the cover of the Mangatu Express? You'd get the job because you were just so clever at drawing. What about when you'd get Linda or I to make tape recordings of your study notes, which you'd then listen to, or lying on the living room floor or in the bath, playing it back off the shitty old tape recorder as you'd read a gun magazine. Must have helped, you nailed all those exams. 6 forms, 6 subjects school cert, 6 subjects UE accredited. Yeah, I helped. I just want to say you've been such a cool brother. Everything was better and more interesting and lots of fun when you were around. Just want to say to Amanda and the boys that we're here and we'll support you. We'll have you up at our farm. Stay whenever you want because we love you, we love them, love Squeak.
Thank you, Paulette. Now, Charlie and Alex, the sons, they've written some amazing stuff and they're going to come up and they're going to share that with us. Okay. And that's not one of the sons, that's their uncle.
Good morning. So I'm Robbie's brother-in-law, and I'm basically here just to support Monkey 1 and Monkey 2. Itchy and Scratchy. So they've got some words to say, but I guess Robbie to me was a great brother-in-law. We did take him out to the racetrack a few times initially, and yeah, you know, he was a very analytical sort of person to sort of know how it all works and give it a try, and gave him the keys to my race car, and he certainly took it for a spin and got sideways and almost crashed into a brick wall, but that probably prompted him to buy that Supra. So all right, Monkey 1.
Yeah. Dad is the best dad in the land. Dad was everyone's lad. Dad was the coolest dad. I am pretty sad that he has to go, but I had a lot of good times with him, so you should know he helped me out when I